Good evening and welcome to the Portland City Council regular meeting of December 23rd, 2014. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, the Lord's Prayer, a moment of silence for our men and women serving overseas. And please, as you're in your moment of silence, would you remember Jim Hansen, who is not doing exceptionally well.
He's still alive.
He's still alive.
I know, I'm like,
But he's just not, but he's just not doing very well. So you could keep him in your thoughts.
I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
our Father,
Who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Thank you. The clerk, please call the roll.
Mike Snyder,
Present.
Dave Velo,
Present.
Lisa Sardi,
Present.
Beth Gilman,
Present.
Jerry Tiroli,
Present.
Dakota Freitas,
Present.
Margaret Phillips.
present.
Thank you, Council. You have before you the minutes of the December 9th meeting. Could I have a motion to accept those as written?
Motion.
Mrs. Sardi.
I didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
Should I have a second? Thank you, Mrs. Phillips. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The chair notes that certification has been received regarding compliance with the rules of notification of this meeting. I understand there's nobody signed up tonight, but I do want to make a couple announcements. We are amending ordinance 2714, ordinance 2814, and ordinance 2914. They're all on salaries and benefits, and most of it is just language. Didn't change the content of the ordinance, but just kind of cleaned up some of the grammar, and I think there was a date
Yeah, that's all it
date that got changed, and then we have added ordinance 3214, or we are going to add ordinance 3214 to the agenda, and it is simply adjusting the accounts within the city's appropriations. We will now go to the mayor's report.
Thank you, Madam President. Back in December, we had the first Mayor's Night Out, something I want to do monthly, and we had a great response from a lot of concerned citizens around 5th Street and Fulton, where there's potential to create a sober living facility, which prompted me to contact the Honorable Judge Winters and Judge Winters to facilitate a meeting so that a lot of the questions that were being asked could truly be answered. Along with that, I asked Dr. Holliday to join us, and we were able to do that at the library, which once again brought quite the turnout. That happened on the 18th. And talking about the sober living, I know I had asked questions from Dr. Holliday to give me some of the policies and procedures. I have just received it today. I'll be more than happy to forward these out to the councilman. We will also put these on our website as promised at that meeting. I want to make sure people are well informed. It appeared that after the room was enlightened with what was the facts versus the hearsay, the room was a lot lighter. People had better understanding how important it is to our community. So we're very grateful for the Honorable Judge taking time out of his schedule to really talk to the people and work with them. But we will continue on with the Mayor's Night Out, and the next one will be January 8th. That will be at 6 o'clock, and I will be holding that at the Senior Center. So all is welcome. I encourage you to talk to your constituents and invite them to come out so that we can forego some of the Facebook comments and give some truth to what really is taking place. And I also would like to just wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and the rest of the holidays. God bless you all. Thank you, Madam President.
Schneider.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe. For the January mayor's night, is there a specific topic or just open discussion?
You know what, I always like to just keep it open. It's really about, it's more about kind of a listening tour, if you will. We want to hear what the constituents want to know and see if we can't answer that. You know, last mayor's night out, we had a lot of councilmen showed up, which is wonderful. It's an open meeting. It is advertised. There's no problems there. We're not making any decisions in the city, but we're really listening. But with that, I know that both the chiefs were there. We're really grateful. Just in case those questions come up that I can't know everything, but hopefully we can get the information out to people that they want. So it's a great way to do that. And I'm, like I said, I tell them doing it every month.
Great, thank you.
Okay?
Anyone else? Auditor's report.
Thank you, Madam President. Well, I very rarely speak, but tonight, obviously, I've been passing out a lot of papers, so I have some things to say about those. And we can talk more about the actual voting when we get to the discussion stage regarding the ordinances. But just briefly, I just wanted to mention, like President Hartlaff had said, ordinance 28 and 29 have been amended. On a fairly regular basis, Portland City Council helps establish the wage ranges for certain non-exempt and exempt employees within the city. Originally, there was some additional language and some grammar corrections that were made to these ordinances that caused the amendments. In addition, a majority of what you will find is the ordinances that are in front of you that have been amended are focused primarily on the salary portions of those. That was really the main goal of those, to make sure, because the current ordinance that is currently in effect expires as of December 31st, 2014. So we want to make sure that we have appropriate wage ranges for 2015. Also, earlier today, I emailed everyone a copy of an ordinance that I'm hoping that will be added to the agenda tonight and also passed. This is, I'm assuming it will be 32-14, and this ordinance is just amendments for the appropriations for 2014. There's actually no net change to the appropriations. It's more or less reallocating expenditures into certain line items, so that way we fall within our appropriations. Something that the state auditors require that we do at the end of each year. So that just brought that before you. I apologize for the late notice, but as you can imagine, we are working up to the very deadline as far as figuring out what expenditures are coming in for the year, so we want to make sure that everything is covered. And I believe that is it. So thank you, Madam President.
Law Director's report. Safety Service Director's report.
Thank you, Madam President. Just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you and your families. Thank you.
Thank you. Police Chief's report.
I would like to thank everyone that attended the vigil tonight, and I too would like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Fire Chief's report.
Nothing tonight, Madam President.
We will now go to correspondence, and under correspondence, all we have this evening are the Laws, Rules, and Ordinance Committee meetings of 11/25/14 and the Finance Committee report of 12/16/14. Could I have a motion to accept the correspondence as stated?
So moved, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Do I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Tiroli. All those in favor?
Aye.
We will now go to the third reading of ordinances and resolutions. Would the clerk please read by title and summary only ordinance 27-14.
Ordinance 27-14, an ordinance making appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Port Clinton, County of Ottawa, State of Ohio, during fiscal year ending on December 31st, 2015.
Does council wish to take any action this evening on ordinance 27-14? Mr. Snyder.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to make a motion that we amend 2714, and the amendments, I believe, will be described by Mr. Hatfield in a moment.
Should I make those discussions?
Okay.
At the recommendation of the Finance Committee, there have been some minor changes to the appropriations for 2015, and I'm going to go through those briefly as possible for you. Under the police department, which is classified under the general fund, there's a $6,000 reduction in personnel services. Under the cemetery, there has been a $3,500 reduction in personnel services as well there, which results in a total reduction of the general fund of $9,500. Looking at the third page of the ordinance, street M&R personnel services was decreased by $2,000. Water personnel services was actually increased by $50,000 due to the reallocation of some employees within the office. Sewer personnel services were decreased by $4,000. Security water deposits line item was decreased by $26,000. With those changes, it resulted in a net increase to the all funds appropriation of $7,500. Those were the only changes made.
I need a second on the amended.
I'll do a second.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Phillips. Would the clerk please call any discussion on that amendment? And the clerk please call the roll.
Madam President,
Yes.
I've got a serious question here. Why are we taking $6,000 away from the police department?
We're not necessarily taking it away. Again, the change, the dollar value from this year and the dollar value when we amended is exactly the same. When we take away, the original ordinance for its first reading had slightly higher amount. And as we went through discussion and looked at revenue and expenses, there was discussion in the Finance Committee, and at the last Finance Committee, there was a recommendation to make those adjustments that you saw. So it's not a reduction. It's not going to be any less than this year. It's going to be exactly the same as this year.
The budget we have before this ordinance came out, $1,817,800. This budget's showing $1,811,800. That's a reduction.
Correct. It's. Did I not explain that?
I don't know if I'm catching it.
It's. I'm trying to figure out how I can explain that a different way. If we look at the 2014 budget, which we've been working on for the past year, and the 2015 budget as amended in front of you, the number is exactly the same for each one of those categories. The change happened, our initial budget that we presented 6 weeks ago had the higher dollar amounts. The only thing we're adjusting is, after discussion, bringing those back to 2014 allocations. So it's the same amount of money next year as there is this year.
When they put out the original ordinance,
Right.
let's say it this way, they overestimated. Now they've gone back and they've made the correction back to the original 2014 budget. So what they originally gave you, they overestimated on what the appropriation was going to be.
But it's still less than what 2014 budget was.
And at the end of the year, can it come in higher than that? Like, will the expenses be higher, or does it have to be below or within the 2015 amount?
We can always make adjustments to the appropriations throughout the year depending on what the actual need is.
So this is just estimates based on last year's numbers, and the total is still the same, it's just
The
accounting mumbo jumbo.
The total for the department total is a little bit less than last year, but there is, across the board, decreases to all the funds
Right,
based on
right.
historical data.
Right.
But it's still us. I
All
don't mean to sound stupid. I really don't. I'm just really not following this.
Yes, you are correct. Altogether, if you look at the budget as a whole, last year it was 15 million.
Something like
And this year is 12 or 13 million. So yes, there were reductions all across the board. But for those specific line items that were discussed today, our original projections were a little bit higher when we brought this for the first reading. We just brought them back to 2014 levels. So the intent is,
This is 2014 here, right here.
The total,
$6,000.
I'll make a correction, Mike. There is a small deduction regarding, I believe last year's appropriation, specifically for the police department, was $1,817,100, something like that. So there's overall there's about a little less than $6,000 decrease this year.
Right.
Why? Why are we decreasing?
if you look at every department,
I
they've all-
appreciate it. I understand.
Revenue's not there. Revenue's not there. Plus, we're also looking at, there's been a change at the state level dealing with income tax collection. And
That doesn't go into effect till 2016.
but we need to start planning, because if we don't have it today, we need to think ahead. And Mr. Bugby is estimating anywhere from $50,000 to $70,000 hit. I guess the question is, right now, if you look at the general fund, and we talked about this as we had our community meetings, and I know Mrs. Sardi wasn't there, it was her predecessor, 90-some% of the general fund goes to pay wages, which leaves less than 10%, I believe it was 6.4, 6.5%, to do all of the other stuff. If all that we want to do is pay wages and employ people, great.
I understand.
But if we want to fix streets and maintain the lights and try to figure out a way to mow the grass, we have to start looking at some serious issues here. Our revenues aren't coming up. I believe the mayor and I discussed the other day, if you look at the census figures, that was it 60% of the population of Port Clinton is either under 18 or over retirement age. So only 40% of the population of Port Clinton is contributing to income tax in the city, which is the #1 source of revenue. And my family is 50-50. If you look at the 8 people that live within the city of Port Clinton that are over 18, there's 4 that are employed and 4 that are retired. And of those 4 that are employed, they have another 3 that are under 18. So it's just purely dollars and cents.
Well, yeah.
We
Of course it is.
we don't have it.
I just want to say I'm not real happy with cutting police budget. I think we could find it
Neither
somewhere
am I,
else. I
but-
really think we could find it somewhere else. I mean, 6,000 is
Do we
not
do
that
we not mow
much
the grass?
if we could spread that other departments. I just don't think we need to.
So do we take
police this time.
do we take maintenance away from the street department to pay law enforcement? I'm not going to disagree with you. I think the law enforcement and educators and firefighters should be the highest paid people, and they're the ones walking out with
Sadly
golden
enough,
vests.
it's the day and age that we can't, we need more than that, of course, but, well, I stated my point, how I feel.
Mr. Snyder, I have a question.
Yes.
This is a budget. The assumption is probably this amount of money will go into these spots for next year. Probably the personnel services will be 1572.5. Probably police department, others will be 239 plus. And the total is about 1811 plus. This is just a budget, right? You don't know for sure if this is what it's going to end up in the long run, right? Based on, you won't know until 15 gets going, Mr. Hatfield, so you will know next year in December whether or not these numbers hold true?
Correct. From my perspective, the budget gives us a guideline of where we should be spending the money. Basically, the way I do budgeting, and I don't know if this helps out or not, but I take what I anticipate, based on historical data, what I anticipate for revenue coming for the next year, and I try to match expenditures to that revenue, so that way we're not relying on any carryover balances and those type of things. Like I may mentioned before, and what you'll see hopefully tonight is that there's always room, for the most part, to do some adjustments, whether it's switching from one line item to another line item, as long as we stay in with what we're considered our total availability. of
Okay,
resources.
within those line items, if for something happens, something should happen next year, police department total actually is $1,009,000. What will you do then?
Well, then we will have to find some other place. If we cannot find it within the police department itself, we would have to find other ways within the general fund to make up for those costs.
So you still have the ability to move these funds around within your budget, as long as you have.
Within the general fund.
Really, you have that ability. I don't have that
All right,
ability. I
wait,
can
so
only
what,
choose.
then it is possible that we could wind up with extra money here or needing to borrow it from somewhere else?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
That was my question, is it's not set in stone, it is
There is some
some
flexibility.
wiggle room, per se. And you don't know all the numbers until the end, but this is just
Correct.
Okay.
If I could, much like last year when we established the budget, we had no clue there was going to be a polar vortex. And as a result of the polar vortex and some other, yeah, I didn't know that. Wish I would have put on my winter shorts. But as a result of the polar vortex and some other issues, water lines and so forth, 3214, which is on the agenda tonight,
Right.
is going to make adjustments to correct that within the specific categories.
Mike, was the chief, was he asked about this or anything, like, was there input from the chief on?
The administration puts together the budget and brings it to the finance committee. I would presume they spoke with each one of the department chairs.
Any further discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Margaret Phillips,
Yes.
Gabe Velo,
Abstain.
Mike Snyder,
Yes.
Jerry Trolley,
No.
You're just voting on the amendment. You're just voting on having it amended. I just wanted
Oh,
to remind
okay.
everybody.
All right,
Just
yes,
do-
sorry. Yes.
Lisa Sardi,
So we're just voting on the amendment? and then-
You're just voting now to amend ordinance 2714. Then we're going to read it again, and then you'll vote on the actual ordinance.
No.
Beth Gilman,
Yes.
Dakota Freitas,
Yes.
I think so, yeah. So we have 2 noes and abstention.
1 no, 1 abstention.
2 noes.
Change.
Oh, okay.
5 yes.
Ordinance 27-14 has been amended. I will now take a motion to adopt ordinance 27-14 as amended.
So moved, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Could I have a second?
Gotta get it out there.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Madam President, discussion.
Discussion?
Thank you, thank you. I wanted to present to the clerk, the Finance Committee had a meeting a week ago. At the time, there were 2 of the 3 committee members in attendance. At that time, 2 committee members voted in favor of the amended version. However, the form I'm going to submit only has 1 signature.
Any further discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Nicole DeFreitas,
No.
Mike Snyder,
Yes.
Margaret Phillips,
Yes.
Beth Gilman,
I'm gonna abstain.
Lisa Sardi,
No.
Gabe Velo,
Abstain.
Jerry Trolley.
No.
Abstentions go with the majority. Okay, ordinance 27-14 has not passed. Two yeses, 2 abstentions, and 3 noes. And abstentions go with the majority. Okay, would the clerk please read by title and summary only? Ordinance 28-14.
Ordinance 28-14, an ordinance revising and fixing the salaries of certain supervisory positions classified as non-exempt employees of the city of Port Clinton, Ohio, not covered by collective bargaining agreement, and replacing any previous ordinances referencing salaries for certain non-exempt employees.
Does council wish to take any action this evening on ordinance 28-14? Mr. Snyder.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to make a motion that we adopt, I'm sorry, that we amend, thank you, 2814.
I have a motion to amend ordinance 28-14. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Trolley. Any discussion on the amending of ordinance 28-14?
I'm going to go over briefly the amendments to it. The amendments are making the ordinance 1 an emergency measure. For some reason, that was left off when the ordinance was originally proposed. There was a provision in, there was a prior section 2 that dealt with sick leave. That's been deleted from this ordinance because this is just dealing with wage ranges. It has a conflict provision added to it where this 2015 pay ranges would take priority over prior ordinances that established the last pay ranges for these positions. And those were the changes that were made to this ordinance so that it just addressed the pay ranges.
Any further discussion on the amending of ordinance 28-14? Would the clerk please call the roll? This is just on the amendment.
Gabe Belo?
Yes.
Beth Gilman?
Yes.
Nicole DeFreitas?
Yes.
Jerry Trolley?
Yes.
Mike Snyder?
Yes.
Margaret Phillips?
Yes.
Lisa Sardi?
Yes. Thank you. Ordinance 28-14 has been amended. Should she reread it? Would the clerk please reread ordinance 28-14, title and summary only?
Ordinance 28-14 as amended.
As amended.
Add ordinance revising and fixing the salaries of certain supervisory positions classified as non-exempt employees of the city of Port Clinton, Ohio, not covered by a collective bargaining agreement, and replacing any previous ordinances referencing salaries for certain non-exempt employees and declaring an emergency.
We had to reread the title and summary because the title and summary had changed. Does council wish to take any action this evening on ordinance number 28-14 as amended? Mr. Snyder.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to make a motion that we retain the emergency clause.
I have a motion to retain the emergency clause in ordinance number 28-14 as amended. Do I have a second?
Second, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Velo. Any discussion on the retaining of the clause? Mr. Snyder.
And again, just for explanation purposes, the reason we want to retain the emergency clause, this ordinance in its current form expires December 31st. The new ordinance takes it to December 31st of next year.
Any other further discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Lisa Sardi?
Yes.
Jerry Trolley?
Yes.
Margaret Phillips?
Yes.
Gabe Belo?
Yes.
Nicole DeFreitas?
Yes.
Beth Gilman?
Yes.
Mike Snyder?
Yes.
Thank you. The emergency clause has been retained. Does council wish to take any further action on ordinance 28-14 as amended? Mr. Snyder.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to make a motion that we adopt 28-14 as amended.
I have a motion to adopt ordinance number 28-14 as amended. Do I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Trolley. Any discussion on the ordinance? Mr. Snyder.
Thank you, Madam President. Again, Finance Committee met last Tuesday, discussed this ordinance. At the time, 2 of the 3 committee members were there, voted in the affirmative to recommend adoption. This paper represents the signatures of all 3 committee members.
Any further discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mike Snyder?
Yes.
Lisa Sardi?
Yes.
Beth Gilman?
Yes.
Jerry Trolley?
Yes.
Gabe Belo?
Yes.
Nicole DeFreitas?
Yes.
Margaret Phillips?
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinance 28-14 as amended has passed. Would the clerk please read by title and summary only ordinance 29-14?
Ordinance 29-14, an ordinance revising and fixing the salaries and benefits of certain supervisory positions classified as exempt employees of the city of Port Clinton, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Does council wish to take any action this evening on ordinance 29-14? Mr. Snyder.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to make a motion that we amend ordinance 29-14.
I have a motion to amend ordinance 29-14. Do I have a second? Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Do we have any discussion? Do you want to talk about this?
On this ordinance, after discussing the initial ordinance that was put on the table with Mr. Hatfield, it was determined that we only wanted to address salaries again in this ordinance for the exempt employees, and the other sections, which are initial sections 3 through remember the other ones, but dealt with the benefits for those employees were removed from this ordinance, and this only addresses the salary for those positions. The benefits are going to be reviewed and looked at, and there'll be a later ordinance that will address those this coming year.
Any other discussion on amending the ordinance?
Does the new version have the emergency clause?
Yes,
Yes.
but it had the old.
But it
version,
already-
yeah.
but the old
Oh, the
one-
one did too.
Now you threw me off. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Nicole DeFreitas?
Yes.
Gabe Belo?
Yes.
Beth Gilman?
Yes.
Margaret Phillips?
Yes.
Jerry Trolley?
Yes.
Lisa Sardi?
Yes.
Mike Snyder?
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinance 29-14 has been amended. Does council wish to take any further action on ordinance number 29-14 as amended? Mr. Snyder.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to retain the emergency clause on 2914 as amended.
I have a motion to retain the emergency clause on ordinance number 29-14 as amended. Do I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Trolley. Any discussion?
Sorry.
Mr. Snyder.
Again, time sensitive. This one expires December 31st. It extends it to December 31st. But that should.
Any further discussion on the retaining of the clause? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mike Snyder?
Yes.
Margaret Phillips?
Yes.
Gabe Belo?
Yes.
Nicole DeFreitas?
Yes.
Lisa Sardi?
Yes.
Jerry Trolley?
Yes.
Beth Gilman?
Yes.
Thank you. The emergency clause has been retained. Does council wish to take any further action on ordinance number 29-14 as amended? Mr. Snyder.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to make a motion that we adopt 2914 as amended.
I have a motion to adopt ordinance number 29-14 as amended. Do I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Trolley. Any discussion? Mr. Snyder.
Thank you, Madam President. Ditto what I said the last time.
Any further discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mike Snyder?
Yes.
Beth Gilman?
Yes.
Margaret Phillips?
Yes.
Jerry Trolley?
Yes.
Nicole DeFreitas?
Yes.
Lisa Sardi?
Yes.
Gabe Belo?
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinance 29-14 as amended has passed. Would the clerk please read by title and summary only ordinance 30-14?
Ordinance 30-14. An ordinance amending ordinance number 14-01 and modifying the city's classification of departments, positions, offices, and employments of the city in the classified and unclassified services.
Does council wish to take any action this evening on ordinance 30-14? Mr. Schneider.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to make a motion that we adopt 30-14.
I have a motion to adopt ordinance 30-14. Do I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Trolley. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll? Oh,
I'm sorry. Ditto the last few times. Finance Committee met.
Any further discussion on ordinance 30-14? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Beth Gilman?
Yes.
Lisa Sardi?
Yes.
Gabe Belo?
Yes.
Jerry Trolley?
Yes.
Nicole DeFreitas?
Yes.
Margaret Phillips?
Yes.
Mike Snyder?
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinance 30-14 has passed. Just before we go to second readings, I know Beth is new and some of these, this might be, for some of you, this might be your first budget. We have till March 31st.
No,
We have
December 31st.
December 31st to have.
Better pick a date for a special
That can be
meeting
next week.
at the
Yeah.
conclusion of this meeting, because
We'll have-
there'll be no bills paid after the end of the year.
We will not do, since there is no current appropriations in effect for next year, we won't be able to do payroll or pay any type of bills, so we'll have to have some sort of appropriation, even if it's a temporary appropriation. So we'll have to have this meeting before the end of this current year.
Be thinking about that before we get to the end of the meeting as to when we might like to do that, so we can pass at least a temporary budget. And then if a temporary budget is all we pass, then it would behoove all of you to get together with the finance committee, with the auditor, with the administration, and discuss what it is you'd like to see in the budget, changes that you'd like to be made, I would suggest that the mayor meet with his department heads again, so that we can get a true budget passed. This would be one of the first times in quite a few years that we haven't had a new budget going into the new year, so, not that that's a bad thing. We'll now go to second readings of ordinance and resolutions. Would the clerk please read by title and summary only, ordinance 31-14.
Ordinance 31-14, an ordinance authorizing and directing the Director of Safety and Service to enter into an agreement with Pogomar Design Group for engineering and construction services and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Does council wish to take any action on ordinance 31-14? Yeah, I'm sorry, move around.
I'd like to make a motion that we waive the 3 required readings for 31-14.
I have a motion to waive the 3 required readings on ordinance 31-14. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Sardi. Any discussion on the waiving of the readings?
Mayor, I believe this is time sensitive, is that correct?
This is to move forward, as council is very well aware, we've done numerous presentations concerning downtown, 2nd Street, Madison Street. This is only authorizing us to go into an agreement with Pogomar Design Group to continue on with the engineering of the construction of the project. We still have to come back to council for an engineering firm to overlook this project once we have it established. So, yes, this is time sensitive, so we continue the ball rolling, meet all those deadlines. This really isn't anything new. This is procedures we have to go through in order to satisfy the grant.
Mr. Snyder.
Thank you, Madam President. I believe the timetable set for this project needs to happen in conjunction with everything that's happening on 2nd Street between Monroe and Jefferson. And the timetable that we're looking at is getting us started in March. So it is very time sensitive.
Any other discussion?
Also, infrastructure met on this last week, and all 3 members of the committee recommend full passage.
Would the clerk please call the roll?
Jerry Trolley,
Yes.
Lisa Sardi, yes. Dakota Freitas,
Yes.
Margaret Phillips,
Yes.
Mike Snyder,
Yes.
Beth Gilman,
Yes.
Gabe Belo,
Yes.
Thank you. Does council wish to take any further action on ordinance 31-14? Mrs. DeFreeze.
I make a motion that we retain the emergency clause in ordinance 31-14.
I have a motion to retain the emergency clause in ordinance 31-14. Do I have a second?
Second, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Beal. Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Beth Gilman,
Yes.
Mike Snyder,
Yes.
Gabe Belo,
Yes.
Dakota Freitas,
Yes.
Lisa Sardi, Jerry Trolley,
Yes.
Margaret Phillips,
Yes.
Thank you. Does council wish to take any further action on ordinance 31-14? Mrs. DeFreitas.
I make a motion that we pass ordinance 31-14.
I have a motion to adopt ordinance 31-14. Do I have a second? Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Dakota Freitas,
Yes.
Gabe Belo,
Yes.
Margaret Phillips,
Yes.
Beth Gilman,
Yes.
Jerry Trolley,
Yes.
Lisa Sardi, Mike Snyder,
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinance 31-14 has passed. I will now entertain a motion to add ordinance 32-14 to tonight's agenda.
So moved, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Could I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Tiroli. Would the clerk please call the roll? Oh, any discussion about it? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Margaret Phillips,
Yes.
Dakota Freitas,
Yes.
Jerry Trolley,
Yes.
Beth Gilman,
Yes.
Lisa Sardi, Gabe Belo,
Yes.
Mike Snyder,
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinance 32-14 has been added to tonight's agenda. And would the clerk please read it by title and summary only?
Ordinance 32-14. An ordinance amending ordinance number 40-13 of the city of Port Clinton and adjusting accounts within the city of Port Clinton.
Does council wish to take any action this evening on ordinance 32-14? Mr. Snyder.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to make a motion that we waive the 3 required readings on 3214.
I have a motion to waive the 3 required readings. Do I have a second? Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Mike Snyder,
Yes.
Gabe Belo,
Yes.
Lisa Sardi. Yes. Beth Gilman,
Yes.
Jerry Trolley,
Yes.
Nicole DeFreitas,
Yes.
Margaret Phillips.
Yes.
Thank you. Does council wish to take any further action on 32-14? Mr. Snyder.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to make a motion that we adopt 3214.
I have a motion to adopt ordinance 32-14. Do I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Trolley. Any discussion? Mr. Snyder.
Thank you, Madam President. As Mr. Hatfield alluded to earlier, this particular piece of legislation is simply cleaning up the books so the line items match expenditures for the calendar year. It doesn't change the bottom line total, anything like that.
Any further discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Beth Gilman,
Yes.
Lisa Sardi,
Yes.
Jerry Trolley,
Yes.
Gabe Belo,
Yes.
Mike Snyder,
Yes.
Nicole DeFreitas,
Yes.
Margaret Phillips.
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinance 32-14 is passed. And just to let, particularly Beth to know, in financial situations, there is no emergency clause built into the recommendation. That's why we didn't know that. I have a couple items. Mr. Fitzgerald from Mr. Ed's is going to donate some property to the city, to the west of his business. I'm going to put this in the infrastructure committee. The mayor will get you a copy of his request. Mr. Wilbur has already done some legal issues on it, and he will get you a copy of those things. Okay? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Additionally, I have been serving as the council representative on Main Street for 2 years, maybe 3 years. It is my position to appoint that position every year. For the last few years, I have appointed myself for numerous reasons. But beginning January of the new year, I am appointing Beth Gilman to serve on the Main Street Board. We'll now do business from the floor. Mr. Snyder.
Thank you, Madam President. The budget as amended, as we talked about earlier today, did have in it the accomplishment of quite a bit. Continued the CHIP program. It dealt with 2nd Street revitalization from Monroe to Jefferson. It dealt with the Jackson Street sewer separation, the continuation of the construction and renovations of Fulton Street, south of where it stopped between 5th and 6th. Lakeshore Drive installation of sidewalks, continued the water meter replacement, and allocated funds for new vests for the police department. Of course, it couldn't solve all the problems. We weren't able to acquire new police cruisers, which are desperately needed for the police department. It didn't allocate for any new staffing. I believe in the last 20 years we have more than 50% less staff today than we did 20 years ago, and the issues haven't disappeared in that same time period. No widespread street revitalization and resurfacing was allocated other than those few projects that we talked about. And as we've talked about in the past, the numbers that have been thrown out are about $1 million per mile in the city to do the streets and infrastructure underneath. With 29 miles of roads, we're looking at about $1.5 million of expenditures a year just to keep up, and we're nowhere near that. We had to place limits on replacing the aging equipment in our service department and street department, and rely heavily on the maintenance of those things, and limited funds for the purchasing of salt. Thankfully, Mother Nature has cooperated this year. So I hope we can get together. I'll just throw this out there. I'm off on Friday, so all day Friday is free for me, the 26th. If we talk about this, we can go from there. Saturday's open too after 3 o'clock. And Merry Christmas. I'm not up this way for it.
You have to.
Mr. Belo, follow that. Mrs. Sardi.
On December 17th, we used, there are a few of you here. Nobody was here, but the public was invited to a meeting on the accessibility playground that they're proposing in Lakeview Park. Tori from the Ability Center was here on behalf of Lions Club Rotary, Friends of the Park, and a few other people. There was some involvement. They asked for some input for the naming rights and stuff like that. They took that. It was very informative. So I'll keep you advised on what the status of that is. They're right now looking for fundraising, so if anyone would like to help or knows anyone that is interested, contact myself or Tori. The next Parks and Rec meeting is January 13th at 6:30 here at City Hall. And Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Mrs. Gilman.
Nothing, just Merry Christmas. Everybody have a safe and happy holiday.
Mr. Trolley.
Friday would be tough for me. Family Christmas. Saturday would work better, Monday would be the best. But Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's to everybody.
Mrs. DeVries.
I have nothing tonight.
Mrs. Phillips.
Nothing else other than it was just a lovely ceremony out front before we had a meeting this evening. The candlelight service for those police officers and such who've gone on ahead of us. It was lovely. Glad to be there.
Okay, we need to come up with a date to meet, which I would suggest that either be the 29th or the 30th, Monday or Tuesday. That gets us past Christmas.
Madam President, would that be a council meeting, finance committee meeting? How would that be
Usually
structured?
a council meeting.
Council meeting. Either one.
Yeah, you can have a committee meeting.
But it would be a whole, yeah.
Yeah, it would be. Well, I would suggest to keep in with our Tuesday is that we meet on Tuesday the 30th.
I'd be more than happy to make myself available all day Monday if anyone has any questions, any concerns. And I'm going to speak for everybody in the administration. We'll make ourselves accessible so you can have any of your questions answered, any of your concerns. Obviously, it's something we could act on. So we need to help. Yeah.
Tuesday the 30th is
7:30 or
7:30, or we can meet earlier.
Does 6:30 work for everyone?
Yes.
Madam President?
I was going to say, I'll ask for a motion that we meet on December 30th at 6:30.
I'll make that motion if no one else will.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mike Snyder?
Yes.
Dave Belo?
Yes.
Lisa Sardi?
Yes.
Beth Gilman?
Yes.
Jerry Trolley?
yes.
Nicole Fridas?
Yes.
Margaret Phillips?
Yes.
Okay, we will meet on December 30th at 6:30 to discuss or to hopefully vote on an appropriation or a temporary appropriation. I would just like to say, for all those families who do not have everyone with them that they'd like to have with them for Christmas, I hope you have some peace. And I'd also like to wish you a Merry Christmas. And with that, I will take a motion to adjourn. Mr. Snyder,
Thank you, Madam President. I move this August body adjourned.
did I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Trolley. All those in favor?
Aye.